Ever since round one concluded on the 22nd of March, AFL footy fans the world over have been shivering with anticipation. And as the clock ticked down to Gil McLachlan's announcement this Savo, the tension was palpable.
Come on, Gil. Papa wants his footy back.
Our 2020 AFL Premiership season will resume on Thursday, June 11.
Connor missed your football.
We have developed our model as the best option for returning to play, and we've done so following extensive consultation with the federal, state and territory governments and chief health officers.
Non-contact training is back for all teams as of next Monday. Then full contact will be permitted in training twice a week from May 25. Oh, and all players and officials will be tested for COVID-19 at least 24 hours prior to those sessions.
The AFL will implement protocols over and above the government restrictions to protect the health and safety of every member of our industry and the wider community.
Testing did start during the week though, with players taking it very seriously.
It was pretty invasive, but I was actually laughing the whole time.
We have such great control of COVID-19 in this country. We're going to be able to control and track the players' movements fairly well and keep them in a fairly controlled situation. I also think it's the appropriate time to get back to some normality, to give us something to follow and cheer on.
Every player will be tested twice a week, so we'll have the results back before they're allowed to do contact sessions or play games.
Teams from Vic and New South Wales will be able to fly in and fly out of their states for matches, but tighter restrictions in WA and South Australia means the 4 teams from those states will have to relocate to a hub on the Gold Coast.
This is an exciting day for our clubs and for our supporters.
Everyone's pretty excited. The group message went off pretty quick.
Yeah, it's a great day, isn't it? It's footy's back and that's what it's all about.
Please don't ever leave me again, football.
What an emotional roller coaster. We're joined now by Jake Nile, chief footy reporter for The Age. Now, Jake, when it was first suggested that the game would come back, there was all sorts of talk of adjustments, shorter quarters, shorter breaks. So do you think the game is going to look any different when it does come back?
Yes, Lisa, it will look markedly different. The first point will be, of course, there's no crowds. And the second point is we will see the shorter quarters. And I think that the whole setup of the hubs where the teams from Western Australia and South Australia will be playing out of the Gold Coast will make the game look markedly different, although it's still the same footy in terms of the rules that they play out on the field.
Jake, just on the crowds, as you said, there is none. But in other leagues around the world, they're trying things like noises to impersonate the crowd or even graphics up in the stands. Are any of those things going to be considered?
Well, I think the broadcasters are certainly looking at inserting sound. They're a little bit conservative on that issue, so it's going to be interesting to see. They're certainly trialling it to see how it comes out, how it sounds, I suppose, so to speak. But on the question of, you won't see that at the grounds. I mean, I think one thing we could see late in the season, the AFL haven't raised this, but I think the NRL have brought up the idea of socially distant crowds. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I think it's if the COVID numbers continue to track fairly well in all of the states where the AFL has played, then that is something that I think they could consider, but they don't want to talk it up because they want to desperately keep on side with the various chief health officers and governments.
Okay, I don't want to be too glass half empty about this, but if somebody does test positive, one of the players, what happens after that? What's the plan?
Well, the AFL are saying that they can still lock it down if there's a positive test to a player. That player will be isolated. They're testing the players twice a week and they're testing them before training sessions and they will have daily health checks. They're saying they can keep them isolated. Now, I think the real question is...
And their team just goes on and plays, yeah?
And he would be able to go on and play. And, of course, the real question is what happens if there's more than one player, because the chief health officers from the various states may close it down. The chief health officer of Victoria, Brett Sutton, said the other day that if they get 2 positive tests somewhere, he was referring to Cedar Meats, he said we may have to close that enterprise down. So that is an untested proposition, so to speak. We will see what happens. The AFL do not have a threshold, as I've written for tomorrow. They don't have a threshold for a particular number of positives that would close it down. But in reality, that decision would be out of their hands. It would be the chief health officers and the governments that would make that call.
OK, Jake, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, guys.